So what are some strategies that you use to make sure that your portfolio is kind of defensive in a sense when the market is kind of churning for the worst?
Yeah, that's a good point, right? Because here we are, coming back down. Looks like we might be retesting these lows that we set back on, the 20th of April. Oh, sorry, 20th of May. And uh, it starts off with just the overall allocation, right?
Mm-hmm.
You have to understand what that means. How much stock do you have? How much bond do you have? What type of stock do you have? What type of bond do you have? And, we use this company Riskalyze, right?
Mm-hmm.
The outside company comes in and analyzes every portfolio and every holding in those portfolios. And it assigns a risk number to that portfolio. And then it shows 95% chance, a projection basis, for how much you might lose in the next 6 months and how much you might gain based on the
Mm-hmm.
mixture of what's in there. So you can look at that and say, okay, does that work for me? Especially focusing on how much you might lose in the next 6 months. And it even shows the dollar amounts,
Yeah.
which I like. Because, you show somebody, oh, you could lose 11%. Okay. I'd rather see the dollar amounts because that's really, what we focus on the most. And so you get to see that. You get to internalize that. You get to look at it and think, okay, is that right? And so that's the first thing. If you get that exactly right, you won't be thinking about becoming more defensive because
Mm-hmm.
you'll already have the right portfolio and it's designed for you and your own needs to kind of get through that downturn and let you kind of sleep at night and what have you. All right, so that's the first thing. Have the right portfolio. Have a way of analyzing that portfolio. This Riskalyze company sends an email to our clients every 3 months showing them the risk that they're
Mm-hmm.
taking in their portfolios. And I think that's fantastic, actually. It's really been very, very useful. And so then the next level that I would be looking at there is just a sense of, okay, now what do I have in my portfolio individually? So if I'm going to get more defensive and still wanted to stay in the same stock allocation, for example,
Mm-hmm.
you start looking at things like utilities that have, historically dropped less, in down markets. Those types of things, that you can take a look at. And so what you're looking at, in my opinion, is the standard deviation of that piece of your portfolio.
Mm-hmm.
And so the higher the standard deviation on a 1, 3, 5 year basis, whatever you're looking at, the more risk you're taking with that piece of your portfolio. So I'm always looking at that. It's one of the huge screens that I use, and I'm looking at exchange traded funds mostly. But when I'm adding something, I've got some pieces that are slightly higher standard deviation for my more aggressive portfolios, and then I try to ratchet down that standard deviation on the stock side, for example, on my more conservative portfolios as far as that goes. So that's the thought process. There is just trying to have the right mixture for what you're trying to do. I guess the third thing would be the possibility of having stop losses in your
Mm-hmm.
portfolio. Can't do that with a mutual fund. That's why we use exchange traded funds, because you can put in a stop loss. And so you can have a stop loss that basically you just draw a line in the sand and say, hey, if it gets below this, I just want to get out. Could be 5%, 10%, 20%. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
there's a whole art and science to picking the right stop losses, but putting stop losses in the portfolio allows you to just get kind of knocked out of those positions. And this can be a problem if it turns around, right?
Mm-hmm.
It just goes whoosh, comes right back up, you lose. And so you got to be careful there with this. And it's something that's really for more of an extreme situation, but you can set up a floor in your losses and just say, okay, even if I'm going to miss out on some of the up run, I don't want to get below this, right?
Mm-hmm.
I would say you probably have the wrong portfolio if that's what you're doing, but sometimes we have things that have big capital gains
Yeah.
that are still risky. And so, I mean, I've got clients who have very large positions in single stock that, they used to work at, still working out okay,
Mm-hmm.
but they've got huge capital gains, and they would maybe cut some of it back, but it's, you're guaranteed to lose a chunk of it
Yep.
because of tax, right? So maybe a stop loss on that so you could hopefully stay in.
Mm-hmm.
But if things do fall apart, okay, I get out for that piece, right? Just something to protect yourself. When we do the MonteCarlo simulation, we can also, if they have a high concentrated position, we can show them what happens if they, like say their position drops by 50% or something. we can show them what that means. And then that kind of gets through to their, to their thought process of, okay, I need to protect some of that possibly, especially if for some people, it doesn't mean that much. It's kind of amazing. I've done some where I take it all the way down 50%. They're still in the 90 percentile range on success. That's okay. But if it really, really dominates and moves their dial back a lot, then we probably need to do something to protect on that, even if it means taking a capital gain.
Yep.
Right? Just because we don't want to go all the way back down. And so anyway, those are some of the strategies that I'd be looking at to kind of make your portfolio defensive as far as that goes. Try to be there in the first place, being the one that works for you. And I think that's where it starts, and the rest is just, refinements.
Mm-hmm.